Well, hello there. You're listening to the Losing It with John podcast, episode number 1. That's right, number 1. And in today's episode, I'm going to basically give you a short little introduction to me and who I am, what I do, my story, because I've lost weight, and how much did I lose? Why was it hard in the beginning? What did I struggle with? We're going to talk about some of those things in this episode, so stay tuned and let's roll the intro. Hi, my name is John Hoff. I'm a personal development and weight loss coach, and on this podcast, I'm here to tell you all your dreams can come true. You just have to have the courage to pursue them and the desire to improve how you think, how you feel, and what you tell that person staring back at you in the mirror, what you're going to do today to make tomorrow one step closer to the life you want to live. No more telling yourself it's too hard. No more telling yourself you just can't do it. Let it be messy. Let it not be perfect, because there is no such thing. So stop telling yourself you can't do it, because you can. I believe in your power to change. You can manifest anything your heart desires. You just have to know how to direct the energy, because whatever you believe is what you will receive. And I believe you are beautiful. I believe you can fit into the clothes you want to fit into. And I believe nothing can stop you from losing all the weight you want to lose. So let's talk about it. This is the Losing It with John podcast. Okay, so welcome. Episode number 1 of the Losing It with John podcast. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for listening. And I hope that my story will give some insights and some inspiration, some hopefully motivation for you and your story. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, awesome. I'm recording it in black and white, doing it just a little bit different style. Everyone else does color, right? So I figured, why not do black and white? It looks good with my tones and the light. It's the right light for me. So Losing It with John. Now, a lot of you may have come to me before because I've been helping people lose weight for a while now. And I was known as my low carb coach. Okay. I helped people lose weight who wanted to try a low carb approach. Keto, maybe more of an Atkins kind of style. It was generally what I would help them with is more of a high protein, low carbohydrate diet. And it worked really well. And there's a reason why I went into that area to help people to lose weight. But over time, I started to notice something. And I want to tell that story here because now I've rebranded into Losing It with John, right? And which my wife came up with that name, by the way, which I absolutely love. I was like, what should I come up with? And I was going I always go crazy over things that like you'll see in the news or something, or they'll come out with a new study. New study says that this and this could help you lose weight. Or, hey, new study says processed foods and sugar is actually kind of bad for your health. And it's like, oh my God, have we not already learned about this? And it's like, I lose it. And so she thought it would be funny because one, it's a little bit of a pun. I lost weight, but I'm also losing it in my head because I keep hearing all these stories or these like studies online that keep coming out to just keep reaffirming that what health coaches, people into health, fitness, all that, like we've kind of known this for a long time. It's just, it's like just headline news. You know how the news goes. They want to show you the newest thing. They want you to watch their show, read their articles. Why? Well, because they need the ratings, right? And what gets the ratings is getting you there, and what gets you there is the little clickbait headlines to get you like, oh my goodness, wow, I need to read that. Like I remember a while back, the first person who actually got me, the first book that got me into kind of where I am today. It was allowed me to transition myself from years of trying to lose weight to actually making it work. A guy by the name of Dr. David Perlmutter. You can find him on Instagram. I'm sure he's on YouTube and all of that. And he wrote a book called Brain Maker, which I'm kind of jumping ahead in my story here a little bit. But the thing is that he kind of was talking about just how gluten is a bit inflammatory and stuff. And so for the longest time, I didn't eat any gluten. Now, I mean, I have a little bit now, but not a lot personally. That's just my personal thing. But I remember there was a headline that came out that it's a big headline. Gluten-free diets people who are on gluten-free diets have a much higher risk for heart disease and all this stuff. And it talked all about, or the headline was just a sensationalized headline about gluten-free diets and people having issues with like heart conditions or heart attacks or something. And it's like, interesting. Let me look at that study. So I looked at the study, and that study, like they showed it was on the Today Show. That was where I first kind of heard about it and everything. Is this big thing. So I look at the study, and you know what? The study, the actual reason why people were having the heart problems wasn't because of a gluten-free diet. It was because the people who were eating on like a gluten-free diet, a lot of them were just not getting enough fiber. They weren't eating enough fiber. So fiber was the real reason why people were having heart issues. They weren't consuming enough fiber. That's what the study showed. But the sensationalized headline was people who are on a gluten-free diet have a higher heightened risk for heart issues and stuff. And so I'm losing it. I'm losing it because it's just a sensationalized headline. There's nothing wrong with going gluten-free. It's better for you, really, if you want to get down to it, because everyone has an inflammatory response to some extent. Some less, some people have more. We're all a little bit different. But, okay. So let me tell you how I kind of got into this and the struggles that I had, because maybe you'll see some in your life, in your story, and perhaps how you can find. I found my way. I've lost the weight and I've kept it off. Like how was I able to do that? And maybe that can help you. I was never obese. I was just, overweight. Not greatly overweight, but enough overweight that like I had self-confidence issues. Okay. I didn't want to take my shirt off. Like when we would go to, when I was younger, when we actually had like community pools that we would go to, my friends and I would go there, or if we go to the beach or something, like I'd look around and everybody else has like a certain, weight, or, you'll see their stomach sticking out. They don't have the love handles. At least and maybe they did, but back then, what I zeroed in on was how I had those things. And look, that person doesn't have it, and that person doesn't have it, and that person doesn't have it. And I just kept comparing myself, which is like the worst thing to do. The worst thing to do is to compare yourself to other people. There's so many things now when I look back on it, in retrospect, how I could have coached myself like, John, no, listen, it's like this. And it's like this. No, here's what you need to think about. Here's what you need to work on. Not just keep dwelling in things. So when I was younger, I had the self-confidence issues. And then when I was in my 20s, I just thought, okay, I thought weight loss was about exercise. I really thought that's what it was about. I thought it was just that I wasn't exercising enough. I was eating the standard American diet. I would eat McDonald's, and McDonald's was like my big thing. That and like Noggles. And I would eat, do you remember those McDLTs that McDonald's used to have? They'd have like the hot side and the cold side. And and I would get two of those. Two McDLTs. I would get the large fry. I don't know if they had the super size back then. Whatever the largest was back then is what I would get. In the 80s and early 90s. And so I get like the two McDLTs, large fries, large soda, and at least the 8-piece chicken nugget, I think it was, or is it a 10-piece? Maybe it's a 10-piece. It's been so long since I got McDonald's chicken nuggets. Sometimes, okay, I would even get two McDLTs, 20-piece chicken nuggets, and a large soda. And I'd question, those really tasty apple pies that they would have. Now that's a lot. And, I was younger back then, so I had youth on my side, because the younger you are, the faster metabolism you have. I'm a man, so, as male ladies, I'm sorry, it's unfair, but it is just the fact that men have a higher metabolism than women do. So like, I would burn a lot of these calories, but, and I was kind of active. I'd ride skateboards and I'd go out, ride my bike, ride motorcycles. I didn't live a sedentary lifestyle. I moved a little bit. I'd play with my friends. But that was, perhaps that was enough to keep me away from being obese, but I was overweight. Now, like I said, I thought that the answer back then was just, I need to exercise more. I need to go to the gym. I thought that's how weight loss worked. I didn't think of it so much about food. I thought of it more like, well, I just need to exercise more. And, I know that a lot of people have, a lot of my clients have had, and I help them work through it, issues with like how they talk to themselves. Now, I have these same ways of talking to myself about some other things that I want to improve in my life throughout the year. So I totally understand the doubt, the self-talk that I am going to talk a lot about. Okay, let me tell you something. If you're following along in my podcast here, what you're going to discover is that I'm going to talk a lot about mindset, a lot about thoughts, behaviors, habits. Loss really happens is through personal change, not just by changing the food that you eat. You can change the food that you eat right now, today, tomorrow, whatever. But as soon as, you go back to the way that you're eating, all the weight comes back, right? So we have to figure out how do we eat a little bit less, or if you're in the opposite end, maybe you have to eat some more food because you're not eating enough. How do we start changing some of those habits? So I'm going to talk a lot about that. That's what this podcast is really, really going to be a lot about. But also food, because look, the nutrition part of it is a certain part of it, protein and stuff, but we'll talk a little bit about that. But to get back to my story, I thought it was mostly, I just needed to exercise more. So I joined gyms, and I remember one of them was called the Q. I loved that place. I would go in, and they had like the smoothie station, and you could get like food and stuff there. And then they had the massages was right there. And then over there was the pool. They had the hot tub, the sauna, the steam room. I mean, they had like everything. They just didn't have like, I wish they had like a racquetball court or something. It was like a mini YMCA. And which, by the way, was one of them that I also had joined at one point. But I would go up there and I would work out. I'd run on the treadmill. I'd try lifting weights. I would like do these crunches. I never joined up for any classes or anything, but I just, I tried. I tried really hard at making the gym work for me. And I had two things, I suppose you could say, it wasn't working for me. And one of them was I wasn't really a gym person. I liked going there and sitting in the sauna. I liked the massages when I would get one once in a while. I liked the chocolate banana smoothie that I would get. You know what I didn't like? I didn't like working out. I didn't like running on treadmills, weights. And I just didn't see myself as that kind of person. And you know what happened then? I quit. I'd always quit. So that was one thing. The other thing that was kind of going against me was that it wasn't working despite how much I ran on the treadmill. No matter how much weights I would lift. Which, I mean, I didn't have a personal trainer, so I'm sure I could have done it better. But for what I was doing, I wasn't really losing weight. And, you know, looking back on it now, I can see why I wasn't losing weight was because, well, I wasn't changing my food. I was just exercising. I was thinking that exercise was the way to lose weight, when in fact, exercise is like one of the least needle pushers, things that pushes the needle the most, okay? It's one of the things that pushes the needle the least is planned exercise. Now, daily movement is a different story, okay? Not just sitting on the couch, getting up and cooking dinner. Dancing while I cook dinner or something. I put on the music and I dance a little bit. And my kids are always going to remember that Dad always played his same few songs that he really likes, and he's going to, and he sings when he cooks dinner, and he moves around and stuff. And you know, hopefully they get those good habits too. But so it's a movement. You know, it pushes the needle more than planned exercise. Now I tried this for years. I didn't go through a lot and like beat myself up like a lot of people do. I know, like a lot of my clients, they say things like, they keep telling themselves the reasons why, like, see, I told you you couldn't do it. Like there's this like nagging voice inside their head that just keeps telling them all the reasons why they can't do it. It's in your genetics. It's just too difficult. I've tried before, it didn't work. I've tried everything, and no matter what I try, it doesn't work for me. Nothing works for me. It's too hard. I've heard them all from my clients, and some of those stories will ring true to me with weight loss, but they really ring true for me in some other personal development areas that I have had to work through. When I was younger, I had a little bit of depression. I was one of those guys that, like, girls would say, man, if I was single, I would date you, John. And I remember when a couple of them became single, and I'm like, okay, here I am, right here, it's me. And no, they wouldn't ask a couple girls out, and I'd always get a no. And I'd keep getting rejected. And, I was like, I guess I was like the best friend kind of thing. Like I was the guy who was too shy to ask somebody out until we were in the friends mode, maybe. I don't know what it was. But regardless, it got to a point when I was in my 20s that I started really thinking that there was something wrong with me. I mean, have you had that feeling before? Like you try so hard at something, and it seems like no matter how hard you try, it just doesn't work out. And so like I would try again and try again, and I was very lonely. for, up until my mid-20s, until I finally met the girl of my dreams, and it worked out. That's the thing, is that it does work out. But all along those times, and as the years went on, the negative self-talk, the negative image of myself kept tanking, and it would go down and down. And when it goes down so far, it's like you're at the bottom of this well. Like you've been going down the well using like a ladder or something. And then there's the ladder. You're at the end of the ladder, but the well keeps going down like another, 10 feet. So you let go of the ladder and you fall to the ground. And now you're like, well, now how hard is it going to be to get up? When I was at the top of the well, it's easy to get up to the top. But now, how the heck do I get out of this well? I can't even reach the ladder anymore. I've dug myself down too deep. And we do that, don't we? We get ourselves in such a negative energy. And we think to ourselves how, there must be something wrong with me. And why does this keep happening to me? Everybody else seems to be able to do it. I ate the same things that person ate. I did the same things that person did. But I'm not losing the weight, and they did. Or I lost it and all came back, but they got to keep it off. What's up with that? So I struggled with this for a while. Now, in the 90s, I actually came across the whole Atkins diet thing. I heard about the Atkins diet, and I was in college at the time. And it was probably around, 95 or something like that. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a try. And what do you know? I actually lost pretty much all the weight that I was trying to lose. And it came off pretty quickly too. I know in the beginning, a lot of that was probably water weight, but I lost the weight. Now, I didn't really follow the Atkins diet in specifically. I knew of it. I heard of it. And I knew it was take out the carbs and just eat some protein. So that's what I did. I took out bread. I took out pasta. I was eating Velveeta macaroni and cheese like it was no tomorrow. Okay. That was my thing. You want to know what I used to eat? I'll tell you right now. If it was going out to for food, it was McDonald's or Del Taco. In younger years, it was it was Noggles, like I had said. Del Taco was a thing. Like I would, if I would be out late with my friends or something, drinking or whatever it was, and then I'm coming home. What do you do at midnight? 1 a.m., 2 a.m., you stop at Del Taco and you get some tacos. So yeah, I used to do that. And the food. So the food was like burritos. I make bean and cheese burritos almost every day. The Velveeta shells, though. Now I don't know if they had the Velveeta shells in the 90s. I'm trying to remember. But I remember when I did start eating those things, it's like liquid gold. It's not even real cheese. No wonder why it's so good. But I liked tuna sandwiches too, so I'd eat tuna sandwiches. And but mac and cheese was my thing, right? Kraft mac and cheese. You put the extra butter in it. My grandmother, she used to make it. I don't know how she did it. I asked her, how do you make it taste so good? She'd always make it taste so good. And she said the secret is just putting a lot of butter in it. And I put a lot of butter in it, but something about when my grandma would make mac and cheese, I think she was doing something and she didn't tell me all of it. I don't know what she did, but it was so good. So I took all that stuff out of my diet. And if I went to McDonald's or something, I think I probably stopped going to McDonald's at that point. But guess what? Do you think I kept the weight off? Or do you think I went back to my old ways? I went back to my old ways. And maybe that sounds familiar to you. Something worked really well for a while. You're like, sweet, this is working. And then you come to realize that, this isn't really what I want to do with my life. This isn't how I want to eat for the rest of my life. I can never have pasta again. I'm part Italian, for crying out loud. You know? So I did what happened whenever you give up a diet, you know? What happens when you stop eating the cabbage soup diet? You gain all the weight back. And that's exactly what I did. I just went back to eating how I was. And I gained all the weight back. And so from then until, up until, I haven't even counted the years. I don't know, 10 years or something ago, something like that. I kept doing that same thing. I'd try a gym. I'd run on the treadmill for a while. And I remember the last time I was on a treadmill, I remember I was running on it and I was so upset that it wasn't working. I wasn't losing the weight. And I was just thinking, you know what? I'm not going to keep paying for a gym membership if this shit ain't working. So I pulled the little plug. I remember I ripped the plug thing off, in case you fall off the treadmill, how the magnetic thing comes off and then it auto shuts off. I ripped that thing off like I was freaking pulling up like Godzilla from under the ocean or something. I just ripped that thing off, got off the treadmill, threw my towel in the towel bin, and I was like, I'm going to cancel. Forget this. I'm done. It's not working. And I quit. And that was a day where, honestly, I just figured I'm going to be overweight for the rest of my life. And it's just the way it is. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. And, at that time, okay, I think what was helping me, remember how I said, like, I wasn't getting a lot of the really bad negative self-talk at that point. I did when I was in my 20s, before I met my wife, Lindsay. And then I've had some other, little struggles with things and other personal areas that I'm trying to improve on. And you start getting old Johnny coming back. Old Johnny's the one that's in my voice, in the back of my head, that is just telling me all the reasons why I can't do something. It's too hard. You suck at it. You're not good enough. Look, see, you've tried. You've learned all this stuff and it's still not working. Why is it not working? You just go do this, all that. That's old Johnny. And my nickname's Johnny for my family. But, that negative thing would keep coming back. And what I had gotten into was personal development. This really helped with that. It really helped me a lot. I started listening to people like Jim Rohn, R-H-O-N, Jim Rohn. He was actually Tony Robbins' very first mentor. I didn't know that, actually. I was listening to Jim Rohn and just really good stuff about how to, he says, like, there's so many quotes that he has that's just great. Like him and Zig Ziglar working at the same time doing their thing, and a couple other guys. But Jim Rohn had a saying. He said, you have to work harder on yourself than you do your job. And I was like, I never thought of it like that. You have to work harder on yourself than your job. At the time, my job would have been whatever you want to name it. Lose weight, working at the hotel. I used to work at like the Hard Rock Hotel. Whatever it is that I was trying to do, I started to keep that in my head. I have to work harder on myself. Well, then you start asking different questions, right? Not asking kind of like, what do I need to do to get these things done? You say, well, what do I got to do to improve me? How do I improve? So I started down that path. And this is at the same time while I was running on those freaking treadmills, like hating life. So eventually that personal development stuff led me to one day I asked the question, because when you start working on yourself, one of the things you do is you have a journal, okay? Like I got one right here. If you're watching on YouTube, I got a journal here that I write in, I read and everything like that. But you start asking yourself questions to yourself. You have personal conversations with yourself, and you'll have like affirmations that you say. And you know, when I'm asking questions, the cool thing about personal development is at some point when you get to a point where you've accomplished something, kind of the next question you ask is, what's next? What else? What else can I do? How else can I improve today? I've got that other stuff now. What's next? And I was asking those questions. And the one that came up for me was health. How do I stop being this? Okay, this was the one that I had to answer. Okay. The question was, how do I stop wanting and feeling like I need to take a nap at 11 a.m. before noon? My energy would be so low that I felt like I needed to take a nap. How do I fix that? That was the first question that led me to then, okay, well, I need to look at, well, what helps give you energy? Food, right? Okay, well, what do I need to do about the food? Okay, this. And what can help me with energy? Well, lose some weight, John. Lose some weight. Eat some healthier food. And you know what? Maybe your energy will start returning. And, I've skipped over so many things, but I don't want to make it a 2-hour podcast. I tried things before that, and right around in that area, like I started eating I started eating more organic. Okay, I started eating things that I just thought were in general the healthier foods, like whole grain pasta instead of regular pasta, and I would try drinking less sodas. I really, really, really did not like diet soda, so I couldn't do the diet soda thing. And you know what? It wasn't really working. Just trying to eat more organic, more healthier kind of stuff. So I was like, well, what else do I need to do? Now, looking back on it here, and then I'm going to tell you what I did, but I'm going to first tell you looking back on it, okay? What I probably could have done different. What I probably could have done different is not jump head first into keto, okay? Looking back on it, what I probably should have done, a more realistic or better approach, would be just monitoring how much food I was eating. Because like I was eating, if you've watched some of my Instagram posts or my YouTube shorts, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, by the way. I do a lot of video, okay? And Instagram as well. But I was always grabbing like the pint of ice cream. I'd go up to the Shell station, the gas station, get ice cream for everybody, come back, I'd sit down and I'd watch a show and I'd eat the entire pint of ice cream. Okay, listen, I'm going to tell you something. No amount of eating organic is going to fix that problem right there, right? I'm not going to fix my weight problem with that. So, look, we all have our journey though, right? And I was trying to do it all on my own. And when you try to do it all on your own, then you're kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall. You're trying to hear what other people are saying you can try. And unless you really get into it like I did, I was in the personal development space already. So I was already kind of into like just jumping in and really learning something big time. But unless you're really into that, then, a coach or somebody, a mentor, somebody to help you through it is going to be the faster way to do it. It's always going to be the faster way to do it. Your best teacher is your experiences, right? your past, everything that you've done before. Your experience is your best teacher. But what do you do when you don't have that experience? You have to learn from other people's experience. So anyways, what I decided then, I was like, I got to read a book. I got to read a book about somebody who can help me. At the time, it was very much about an energy kind of thing, turning my brain on. I wanted to wake my brain up. And I came across the book called Brain Maker, and it's by Dr. David Perlmutter, who I mentioned earlier. And as I was reading the book, full disclosure, actually, I was listening to the audiobook. I got the audiobook. I like audiobooks. You should see in my phone how many freaking audiobooks I have. It's just, you can scroll forever. I am an avid audiobook listener and podcast listener. That's what I listen to in the car always. But anyways, so his book was all about food. And then I got his next book. Well, actually, it's the next book I listened to and purchased, but it's actually the first book that he wrote, if that makes sense. I started with his second book, but his first book, it's called Grain Brain. And it was all about carbs, fat, and protein, but mostly about carbohydrates and fat. And I learned all about like a low carb diet and how keto can help turn the brain on, because there's ketones and everything. And I just jumped head first into keto. I mean, I went in hard on keto. One day I was eating ice cream. The next day I'm putting MCT oil and butter in my coffee, and I'm blending it, and I'm drinking all this like fat and oil, and I'm just all kinds of this oil stuff that I'm taking. I'm like eating lots of eggs and no carbs, like almost zero carbs. Really, at that time, I didn't really like vegetables at all. Now I can eat vegetables. I tolerate vegetables. I eat them. I eat a salad just about every single day now. But unless I put a bunch of chicken on it and stuff, then it's not really satisfying to me. But back then, it was just very meat heavy and a lot of fat heavy, a lot of oils and butter and stuff. So a couple things happened. I lost weight. I lost the weight. I remember about the Atkins diet, and I was thinking about that, how it did work for me that one time. And I went into it with, it's a little bit different mindset than what I had previously in the 90s with the Atkins diet. I went into it this time with like this conviction of this is what I'm doing. And I lost the weight. I've kept it off ever since. I'm not still doing keto. There's times where I might, fluctuate into a ketogenic state because I'm not eating a ton of carbs, but I eat more carbs now. But anyways, I went in so deep that I actually kind of messed things up a little bit. You could say my gut microbiome. I messed up a little. I felt like my skin was getting oily, and I had messaged a company and asked them about that because I was using some of their products, and they said, well, it's physically impossible for your skin to secrete oil because we secrete water. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense, I guess. Well, why is my skin oily? And they thought that it could have been a gut thing, but I needed to go check it out. But that is ultimately kind of what happened. Was I just messed up my gut microbiome, okay? My probiotics, my gut bacteria. I got into dysbiosis. Why? Well, because I freaking stressed my body out. I've been living a certain way for a long time, okay? I've been eating a certain way for a long time. And then all of a sudden on a dime, I decided, hey, I'm going to cut out all this stuff that my body has been loving and eating and craving and having what it's used to. And let me tell you something. We all are different. And we all are going to react differently when we change diets drastically. So some people, they're going to lose a little bit of weight in the beginning, and then they're going to stall out. And the reason for that is their body locks up because it thinks that it's in starvation mode. Like, oh my God, too much stress, too much stress. Hold everything. And let's just make sure that we're safe. And it locks you in that state. And you can keep dropping calories, keep dropping your carbs. And you find that like you're not losing the weights because your body's too freaking stressed out. Other people will start getting hair loss. They'll start losing hair, for crying out loud. And I've had to help people with that. Okay. And then for me, I lost the weight, and I actually lost too much weight. At the time, I know, good problem to have, right? And here's John telling me, oh, he lost all the weight and he lost too much weight. Wah. But it's still not a good situation to be in. And you know, it's funny when you get a weight problem is a weight problem. And you start getting the self-confidence issues, whether you have the weight or not enough weight. And you start getting comments from people. Stupid ass comments from stupid ass people that, you know what? I'm thankful that I was able to not let their stupidity, their level of maturity, I was going to say immaturity because that's what it is. I was able to not let that affect me too much, maybe a little bit. I remember, so I was working at the Hard Rock at the time, and I was a banquet server. And as a banquet server in a big hotel, you walk a lot. All right? A lot. You're always moving. And not only are you always moving, but like you're pushing heavy carts, you're pushing coffee carts. I'd work coffee breaks and stuff. You carry heavy trays. You'd walk all the way across the hotel, back and forth. You'd push these big things we called Queen Marys. And it was a lot of movement. It was a lot of movement. And now I did that. This is where you could tell that what you eat matters because, or how much of you that you eat or how, you know, whatever. But I was working that same job. And then when I switched to keto, doing the same things, I lost the weight just from doing the keto thing. Same job, different foods I was eating. Lost the weight. And I ended up losing so much that, people started giving me comments at work. And they would be saying things like, geez, John, I feel like I need to give you a hamburger. And, it didn't affect me that much. I don't really care what other people think about me, honestly. And I do care in that I want to be an inspiration to them. Okay. I don't care if they decide that they're going to have a negative attitude toward me. Does that make sense? And I think it's that has been able to help me a lot, because a lot of my clients, they're unable to do that. And that's what I have to help them get past. I have to help them work through that. Look, does it affect me a little bit? I'm freaking human. Of course it affects me a little bit. Some people, a lot of it. But I'll tell you how I was being affected was that I would look in the mirror and I wasn't happy. At one point there was this transition phase. If you ever watched that movie with like Brad Pitt, I think it was Benjamin Button, where he ages backwards, right? And he meets his girlfriend or the girl that he likes in the middle. So he ages this way, from looking old to being young, and she ages from being young to be old. And at one point they meet when they're like, 35 years old. They meet in the middle and they're like the same age. And then all of a sudden they go backwards, and she gets older and he gets younger. And it was kind of like that with me. Once I lost the weight, now all of a sudden I was looking great for a while. I'm like, oh yeah, John, you're looking good. Love handles are gone. Spare tire is gone. Energy's going up. But it kept going down. And then I started getting the comments on the other end of things. And, you know, so a little coaching now, I'm coaching myself. That is one of the nice things about being a weight loss coach, personal development coach, is that I'm able to look back at my own story. And I've learned how to do some self-coaching for myself. And I think that's what everybody needs to be able to develop, is how to do some self-coaching. But looking back, when you lose weight, your body is going to be looking at losing it in two ways: fat and protein, muscle, fat and muscle when you lose weight. Now, if you're losing both this, and we're going to talk more about that kind of stuff in the podcast, okay? So you get a better understanding of what's going on. But for the moment, in general, when you lose weight, you lose both fat and you lose muscle. And I lost a lot, and I lost it quick. And what I was doing was I was pushing those heavy carts. I was moving a lot during the day, and I wasn't eating enough food because I had this honestly, from keto, and it was like very clean keto, like ultra clean keto. It wasn't the dirty keto kind of stuff that you hear people talk about where you're eating processed foods and everything. I did the whole freaking clean thing where it's only whole quality foods that I would eat, and that's it. And like, I'd be concerned if there was too much, like, ooh, look, there's some nitrates in that bacon. No, I need the no nitrate bacon. And when I was working at the Hard Rock, I would work long ass days. My kids sometimes wouldn't even see me for a lot of the days, because I'd be there before the sun comes up, and I'd be there until like 10 o'clock at night. And I'd do that like 3 days a week, 4 days a week. It's crazy. And while I was working there, what do I have to eat? Bunch of processed foods. Guess what John wasn't eating anymore? Processed foods. And so then it's like, okay, well, there's these, like the bacon in the morning. Because, sometimes in the chefs, like they'll be, okay, here's a bit of leftovers, right? And we could go eat them somewhere. And be like, well, what's that bacon made with? That bacon probably has brown sugar in it, probably has nitrates in it. And it's like, okay, John, well, why don't you eat some of the, why don't you eat some eggs or something? I would eat eggs. That's the one thing that I would eat. But then I'd be like, some of the other foods that they would be making, I'd be like, well, they're probably using soybean oil or vegetable oil, which if seed oils and vegetable oils are inflammatory. And I would not be having those. So I wouldn't eat that stuff. So I wasn't eating anything. And you know what my body said? My body said, well, John, you have to push that coffee cart today. And I don't see any food inside your system that I can use. But you need that energy. You need the energy to pump your heart, to work your brain, to operate your liver, and push that coffee cart. And if the only thing you're giving me is coffee, because I drink coffee, then I'm just going to cannibalize you. I'm just going to start eating the protein from your muscles. I'm going to take the muscle, I'm going to break it down, and I'm going to convert that into energy to keep you going. And that's how we're going to supplement things. And I lost muscle and I lost weight. I lost fat, body fat. I lost both. This is why I think that protein, if you follow me on like Instagram, I have little posts, I say this all the time. Protein is the most important nutrient for somebody who's trying to lose weight. Protein is. Okay? Now, do you need to do a high protein diet? In a perfect world, yes, you would eat a lot more protein. Okay, especially for you women. All right, I'm looking at you right now. I know men usually eat a lot of protein, women not so much. But do you have to eat lots and lots of protein right now? No, you don't. To lose weight, you don't have to. Okay? Let's just get the habits moving first. We're going to talk about that more in upcoming episodes. So, I got off the whole you have to be perfect, okay? That's the problem with dieting sometimes, is that it can give us a very bad relationship, like disordered eating. Not with everybody, obviously, but with a lot of us. And, look back on yourself. Have you tried intermittent fasting? Have you tried some kind of diet where you count points or count calories, or you don't eat certain foods? And what was once kind of like, oh, that seems sensible, did it kind of lead to a little bit of a disorder in eating? For some of you, that answer is yes. It did me. And then I kind of woke up one day and I was like, look, some people can do keto forever, and they love it, and that's great. If you like keto, if keto is your thing, Maria Emmerich, that's who you follow right there. If keto is your thing, I can absolutely help. When people come into my program, I have a certain thing that I try to help them through with losing weight, with habits, behaviors, how much food are you eating, when are you full, when do you need to eat, things like that. But if you come into my program and you're like, that's great, John, I'm going to learn those things because I think we need to learn hunger cues. We need to learn how to eat more mindfully and all those things. But I really like the keto. Like, I don't want to eat bread anymore. I don't like carbs. Carbs make me feel terrible. One of my clients, she said, carbs make me feel like crap. I'm like, awesome. Okay. Well, here's where we're going to proceed then. We're all different. For me, it was just like, well, I like potatoes. I want to eat potatoes. Guess what, John? You can eat potatoes and still be a healthy weight, right? Back then, I didn't think so. Back then, I thought potatoes were the devil. Potatoes were the thing that made me gain weight and be overweight. So I kind of transitioned at some point into higher protein still. That protein is what I always look at. I still look at protein, but I don't count carbs anymore. I just try to focus on eating healthy foods that nourish my body. Not everybody is that way. Some people want to lose weight but still be able to eat McDonald's, still be able to eat ice cream. And I still have, if I want to eat McDonald's, I can go eat freaking McDonald's, okay? There is no food that is off limits for me, except maybe Rocky Mountain oysters. I don't think I want Rocky Mountain oysters. And if you don't know what that is, go look it up. But I'm willing to try just about anything. But if I want cake, I'll eat cake. Okay. Now, when's the last time you saw John eat cake? Probably not. It's been a while. All right. If I bought donuts the other day for my kids, I hadn't had a donut in a very, very, very long time, but I allow myself to. It's not restricted. I had a little bit. I had a little bit of donut. The trick is, how much of it are you eating? So check this out. So now, I lost the weight, and then I kind of figured out my stride. I got things kind of going. So I started helping other people lose weight because, here's how it works. When you improve yourself, okay, what you'll find is that at first you're probably getting ridiculed on things. But if you can work past that, then you start improving yourself and you start getting better. And then people start seeing that you are improving, that you are getting better, and that they are staying the same. And all of a sudden you start becoming, an inspiration. You go from being like, they want to ridicule you to like, now they want to know what the heck you're doing. How can they be more like you? How are you losing weight? How are you getting this energy? What is it that you did? Now all of a sudden they're curious. You know what? You're like, yeah, look at me, right? And think about it for a moment. How freaking cool is that? How cool is it that if you overcome this adversity that you have in your life, and you know other people in your life have similar adversities, that now you can help them. Now maybe your kids or grandkids can start getting some new habits from you, some lessons from you, and you can help them and your friends. And you can show them what you're doing, and you can help them. Well, that's what happened, okay? That's what happened with me. Started helping with my family, my wife. You know, she had the same thing like me, you know. She wasn't obese, but she was overweight. And everything that she ever tried, well, you know, in her 20s, you know, now we have 4 kids, but before that, she wasn't overweight. She's always been, you know, a pretty good weight. And it wasn't until, I don't know, mid-30s or something like that, when now the weight started coming on, you know. But I was able to help her. I was able to help my mom. I was able to help my brother by learning all this stuff. My brother started having issues with a medication that they thought was, wow, this could be a real mental thing. He started getting scared. Like, they're talking about my brain, and they're going to do these scans and all this stuff. And whoa, wait, okay, hang on a second. You know what I was able to do? I was able to take all that stuff that I had learned in the past about health, and it came to that moment that I was able to help my brother, and I started asking him some really good questions. And it turned out, you know, here's what I asked him. I go, let me ask you something, bro. Yeah, that's right. I said, bro. I said, we said, hey, bro. I said, you don't happen to be taking like statins or anything, do you? Oh my God, yes. Yes, and it's about the same time. And you know what? I would have never asked that question in the past. But because I got better, I was able to help somebody else in my family. And since then, and by the way, that's what it was, and the problem went away. Okay, doctor wanted to do all these tests and all these things and all that, and here, little old me, Mr. Health Coach. Well, I wasn't really a health coach at the time, I suppose. I was helping a few people, but I was able to help them out. And that's what I love seeing when my clients get better, when I help them lose weight and help them improve their health. It's a collateral effect. And I'm blessed that I can help people like that. That I can help people that I don't even know. I'll never know. But because I helped somebody who helped somebody, I mean, that's pretty freaking cool if you ask me. So now let me tell you about a little misstep thing. I don't want to call it misstep. It's an oversight of mine when I first started coaching people. Okay, because I lost the weight and then I kept it off. And there's a difference between losing weight and keeping it off. And I realized that I was teaching just the how to lose weight in the beginning. Okay, I wasn't showing people how to keep weight off forever. I was losing weight. Let me put it this way. On a spreadsheet, I could make you the most awesome freaking spreadsheet in the world for you. I could do it right now and give it to you and say, you follow the things on that spreadsheet, you're going to lose weight. Okay, and for 90% of the people, it'll probably work. Problem is, newsflash, we are not spreadsheets. We are people. Okay, we're people. We're not spreadsheets. So when we look at it like that, the spreadsheet works for a short period and we lose the weight. Okay, you do low carb, you do keto, you do whatever your new weight loss thing is. And if it is just about diet and exercise, you're probably not going to be able to stick with it. Okay, they say like 90% of diets fail. 90% of the people who go on a diet end up regaining all the weight. Why is that? Because the freaking diet doesn't teach you how to change your habits, how to change your behaviors, how to become a different person. You're still the same person. You're using the mindset of a McDonald's eater, let's say, overeater of McDonald's. Okay, you can still eat McDonald's and lose weight if you do it right. But you're using this old mentality mindset of yours, and you're trying to do it in a different way, okay? So like you're trying to magically eat the way that John eats, but you haven't changed like I've changed internally. So I wasn't teaching that. And what I realized in the beginning, when I first started helping people with weight loss, was that I looked back at okay, how did I lose weight? What worked for me? What worked for me was a low carb diet. Okay, I realized you didn't have to do keto to lose weight, but low carb, eat less carbs. Eat less carbs, a regular amount of fat, and eat some more protein. Okay, and guess what? People would lose weight, to be expected. As long as they followed what I told them to do, they would lose weight. And you didn't have to go to the gym. How about that? And then I did some check-ins with some of my clients, many months down the road. And one of them in particular, I remember, she said that, she goes, well, unfortunately, I kind of fell off the track. I gained most of my weight back. I had knee surgery and just a couple things happened, and I need to get back on track. And you know what went through my head when I heard that? It was, you shouldn't be off track. There is no track. What? There's no multiple tracks. There's only one. How do you get off track? I thought that we were just doing this now. How did you jump into this train and go to back to the old train? The old train I thought was gone. But it wasn't gone. And I had to sit there and think about like, okay, well, how did I hate to say that I failed her because I did help her to lose the weight, but I failed her in being able to keep it off. And I'm like, what did I mess up here? Why was I able to keep it off? And I look back and it was the personal development. That made all the difference. I had already been doing this personal development stuff, so it just kind of came naturally for me that when I make a change, I need to work on myself. And I did add personal development stuff into the program because I had what's a core curriculum. They could follow the videos and stuff, and then we would do these live calls and stuff. And then we do the live calls to be to follow through and questions and clarity and all those things. But the personal development stuff was a bit of a whisper compared to the diet stuff. I had teamed up with my dietitian at the time, and we called him Coach Matt. And you might see some of the videos. I still have some of those videos on YouTube. Coach Matt, he's a dietitian, awesome guy, knows all about low carb diets, all that stuff. And we would go live every week in a Facebook group. Him and I would go live every single week. We talk about low carb diets and losing weight. Well, anyways, back to the story of where I failed them is that I looked at it and I was like, okay, so I didn't really give these people a good plan for how to change. I put videos in there on talking about how you need to change your self-talk, how you need to do these things. But the course was more, I looked back at, well, what got me to physically lose the weight? And what physically gets you to lose the weight is the food that you change. But what keeps the weight off is personal change. Okay? And I wasn't doing that. So I went back and I had to change things. We have to change some habits here so that when, those hard times come, because the way I looked at it was like this. I actually said this to myself. I was like, how did she fall off because she had knee surgery? If I had knee surgery, I wouldn't eat differently. But we do. A lot of us do, don't we? And, food is, it's an out for pain, isn't it? It's a way of just like making us feel better. It's a way of distracting ourselves from the hard work that we have to do sometimes. And the important thing when that happens is to have that awareness that that is happening. Because when you have the awareness, you can start to question it. And then you can start making decisions for yourself. But when you don't even have that awareness, it's just like, oh, this hard thing just happened in my life. I'll focus on my health later on. Let me just go eat this stuff. Well, then you know what? That means that we have not reprogrammed the brain. We have not changed. All right? So yeah, I had to go back. It can't no longer be a course of just how to do a low carb, high protein diet. It had to be, what is a way that people can lose weight that kind of works for everybody? Mostly. Okay, I say mostly because I don't think there is one weight loss coach, one dietitian, there's not one fitness person in the world that they can say that they can teach and people 100% will lose weight. Every single person, lose weight to some extent, of course. Any change that's in a healthier way is going to help people to lose weight, but lose weight and keep it off forever is what I'm talking about here. There's things, medication, their thyroid might need to heal something, but what, I had to look at, well, how do I help people to find lasting change? And the lasting change is in this thing right here. And if you're watching on YouTube, you know where I'm pointing. If you're not watching, if you're listening on a podcast, then it's my head. It's my head. Okay. And so that's kind of where I'm at now. Look at that. My weight loss and journey and struggles in an hour. Now I have the pleasure of being able to help people lose weight, keep it off, change their mindset, change their thoughts, learn how to eat properly. And is it just low carb? No, it's not low carb. Now, I do have a saying that for me, it's not that I eat a low carb diet, it's that everybody else is over consuming carbohydrates. Okay, I tell myself that. I remind myself of that. I'm not doing keto. Keto is like 20 grams of carbs or less for the most part. But I probably, if I had to estimate how many carbs I eat in a day, it's probably in the ballpark of 80, maybe 100. And then, fluctuates plus or minus from there. I did I'll have to do I'll do a podcast on this one time, but the short end of it is that I had put what I used to eat into Carb Manager, an app that tracks like your carb intake and fat and protein and all that stuff. And I inputted that stuff in. I used to eat like 550 grams of carbs a day would be my normal. So yeah, if that's what the standard American diet is, and now I'm eating like 80, 100, people you could say I'm on a low carb diet, right? But I'm not. I'm just kind of on a naturally what I eat kind of diet. It's not a diet. Diet being, I should say, diet is just what I eat. Okay. Alrighty. Well, I hope that wasn't too loud, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode number 1, my story of getting from where I was to where I am now today. I'll talk more about the things that I do to hopefully give some insights and inspiration. I'll talk about how I help clients lose weight and keep it off. I'll talk about some nutrition things. You know, some people, everybody's journey is different, and you'll never hear me say, oh, this is the diet you have to do, unless it's something to heal a medical issue, okay? So like if you have a thyroid problem, then there's certain diets and foods that can actually help heal that. But in general, if it's just to lose weight, I'm about meeting people where they are. And let's work on the path of least resistance. Let's not work so hard at it. The path of least resistance is what? Kind of doing what we've already been doing, eating the foods that we've already been eating. But how can we do it in maybe a little bit different way that can be conducive of losing weight and getting to a realistic goal that we want? And if that is low carb, if that's high carb, if that's eating processed foods, if it's only eating whole foods, then I'm there to meet you there. And I'm there to help you with that. Because I know that when somebody starts to lose weight and they get a handle on some of these habits that we change, and it's like, okay, that's a habit. You start asking yourself that question that I told you earlier in the podcast that I ask myself, and that is, what else can I do? When you get there, possibilities start opening up. And you know what? If you don't want to transition, like, no, you know what? I don't want to transition to just whole foods 90% of the time. Okay, because that's kind of what I do. I eat whole foods about 90% of the time. Not everybody wants to do that, and that's fine. That's fine. But what I do want you to know is that there's a path, there's a way, okay? If you've beaten yourself up, if you feel like I'm broken or it doesn't work for me or I've tried everything and nothing I do, it's my genetics or something, I just want you to know you can throw that out right now, okay? The negative self-talk can stop sabotaging you because those things are lies, okay? They're just beliefs that we've given ourselves. And believe it or not, sometimes our beliefs, what we think that we know, is actually wrong. And we don't like to be wrong, do we? We like to be right. But there is a path, there is a way. And I hope that you follow my channel, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Losing It with John. Subscribe to, follow me on Instagram. I'm at JohnHoff35. And, Losing It with John over on Facebook too, if you're the Facebook person and everything like that. Okay. And with that, I think we'll close it off there. Keep an eye out. There's always, like, if you want to look into working closer with me, then there'll be a couple ways that you can do that. I'm putting together right now kind of like a little free mini series that you can go through. But go to losingitwithjohn.com/waitlist. Okay. losingitwithjohn.com/waitlist and get yourself on the waitlist there for when I reopen to accept some more students in. All right. And then I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.